I don't want to be internet famous. And I'd sit there and be like, I hate to break it to you, but you have a very flawed understanding of how much effort it takes in order to be internet famous.
How have we been operating without this? We've just been flying blind for the last 2 years of, I think that's working. I think traffic's coming from here. And then I reframed it of, we did all this and I had no clue.
Every business I've ever built, I was always convinced that I was the only person who could do it. And then I'm just proven wrong again and again and again. It's like the doctor paradox, where the doctor thinks no one can do what I do. But then you have to ask the question, well, how did you learn how to do what you were doing?
If the goal that you come back to me with is below the number I have here, no bonuses for anyone the entire month.
It's just turned into Squid Games real quick.
Boom. Welcome back to another episode of the Espresso Hour 2024. This is week number 5 in our business recap and what we learned experiment. We're officially in February and off to a good month.
The year's already over.
It's flying by. You can see, you said the other day, Christmas is right around the corner.
Christmas is tomorrow.
Christmas is right around the corner. And I was like, doing the math. It's not that far away.
It's not around the corner.
But yes, we were once again hyped up on caffeine, despite I'm taking a little bit of a caffeine. I'm trying to take my daily down.
Trying your best.
I failed today. I hit my quota. Today was one of my, I guess I should explain. I'm trying to take my daily espresso shot usage down from 4 to 3 and then slowly back down to 2. But the way I'm doing that is I'm measuring it over the week. So I'm giving myself 1 or 2 days to stick with 4, and today's one of those days.
The meta framework here is who has accomplished their New Year's goals, right? Like usually at the beginning of February, whatever goal you set out for the new year, it's gone. It's obliterated. You didn't follow through with it. And so it was interesting to just jam on this and think about, okay, why does that happen? And the root of that happening is someone going, I've been doing this thing for a long period of time, and starting tomorrow, I'm not going to do it anymore. Or I've never done this thing for a long period of time, and starting tomorrow, I'm going to do it every day. And the reality is that's not how it works. And substances, caffeine and like cigarettes, things like that are a great example. Going from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0 is a recipe for failure.
The better New Year's resolution would be, what do you want to be doing at the start of next year? What do you still want to be doing at the start of next year? And if you gave yourself the entire year to build that habit, and I'm trying to build a framework around this where, let's say you wanted to start getting up at 6 a.m. and you're currently getting up at 8 most days, you could start trying to do every day at 6 a.m. Or you could say, by the end of the year, I want to be getting up at 6 a.m., which means I need to add 5 minutes per week to my, less. It could be 3 minutes a week. I just move my daily wake up time 3 minutes on average. You'd be there by the end of the year, and you'd probably be able to stick with it. But most people go, I'm going to wake up at 6 tomorrow. They go 3 or 4 or 5 days, can't stick with it, too big of a change. And I'm mostly saying that as a reminder to myself, because I do that all the time with anything new I'm starting. So I'm trying to be more sustainable with change this year.
Yeah, it's a more painful path. And I think in general, the more painful the path, the less likely you are to execute and stick with that path, though.
But why don't we start with a recap of everything we did? So you've been cranking on the PGA curriculum upgrade. How's that been going?
Which is funny because it hit me this week that this is almost exactly what I was doing 1 year ago today.
Which is crazy that it's been a year since we started PGA.
This time last year was when we made the decision to do the beta cohort for PGA, and I got really sick at the time. I'm convinced that I got COVID or something, and I just, YouTube's gonna ban us for saying that. and so I just had to push through and make this whole curriculum in 4 weeks while I was super sick, and it was horrible.
Jordan flu game.
Yeah, and each day it was painful, and now it's the same thing, and we're basically redoing the whole curriculum. I mean, I think we're keeping maybe like 20 or 30%, but a lot of it's changing because we've had 400 plus people go through PGA, and we've learned these are the things that are helpful. These are the questions that they have. Like one of the biggest things, and this is now a framework for any info product that we make, it has really occurred to me that whenever you're explaining something, every time you explain something, the customer, the reader, the listener is sitting there with 5 to 10 objections in their head. They're sitting there going, but what if, or what happens if I, and so one of the biggest changes we're making to the PGA curriculum is explaining something and then going, let's pause. Because I know you're sitting there going, how does this work? What happens if I do this? I'm afraid of this negative outcome, et cetera, et cetera. So you pause, you answer all those questions, then you move on to the next thing.
The framework here is the curriculum is really a sales script. You're selling them on this way of thinking.
You're selling them on the idea.
You're selling them on this way of thinking and it being the best, which is if you want them to execute it, you have to handle all the objections that would keep them from doing that in the first place.
100%.
Which is great because this goes back to it's either a skill or a belief that keeps someone from doing something. One of Alex Hormozzi's best frameworks on that. And a lot of times when you're building a curriculum, the bottleneck only becomes beliefs, believing that it will work. And so people give a lot of actionable information, but they don't handle the things that either time management or fear or anything that would keep someone from executing that curriculum. And that kind of leads nicely into the second point, which is this week inside PGA, we started a mindset accountability call. So for the last year, Cole's been running the curriculum hot seat call, where basically people can come up and ask questions about whatever's going on.
But it's always been hard skill focused.
Yes.
It's like, here's the skill to, and I think this was the first time where it really clicked like, oh, but there's another 50% of bottlenecks, which is beliefs.
And this is, wow, I love that we talk these out every week because we just stumbled on a new framework, which is like part of your curriculum has to be the beliefs that are keeping people from going through your curriculum. And most people, and us included, we didn't include very much of that in PGA so far. So we surveyed all our students and asked, for anyone who feels stuck, could you please share whether it's time management, whether it's imposter syndrome, XYZ. And then they came to the call, and I did it in place of the curriculum call this week, but the response has been pretty good. I basically got on stage and I was like, all right, what's going on? Let's talk through how you're feeling about this. And most of the time it was some kind of limiting belief that they've never been able to talk through with anyone. And that was signal enough for us that, okay, it's clear that they think that the curriculum will work, but they're afraid to send a cold DM because that might mean that someone thinks they're salesy.
Yeah.
Or they're afraid to get on a sales call and look silly because that would mean they don't
know what they're talking
about, right?
Yeah.
So it was fun to have that lens of let's talk personal growth through the running of your business, because you're going to tackle your self-limiting beliefs. You're going to talk about your beliefs about money. You're going to talk about your work ethic, your time management. So it was nice to be able to coach that and say, all right, we have a vehicle and a lens here. Let's unpack why you're not executing it. And I dropped the hammer a little bit, which was fun, but there were so many frameworks that we could clearly just put into the onboarding of PGA that says, let's just start with the mindset. Like, you're going to try to solve problems you don't have. Like the example yesterday, I was helping someone who was struggling with cold outreach, and they're a little bit scared to reach out because they don't think it's worth it. So we talked about money beliefs, and that we could handle on its own. They were like, how would you do it if you were going to reach out to someone every day for a month? And I made this super simple spreadsheet. I was like, 1 column, every person, 30 columns, day 1 through 30. And I'm like, here's what I'd be doing on XYZ, day 1, day 2, day 3. And her first question goes, well, what do you say on day 27? Like, how do you follow up with someone on day 27? I was like, this is called solving problems you don't have.
Yeah.
You can solve day 27 when you get to day 26. And you can solve day 26 when you get to day 25. But until you send that first message to 100 people on day 1, nothing else matters. And so many people were like, wow, I am sitting here trying to solve problems we don't have. And the metaphor we use is people who go, I don't want to start lifting weights because I don't want to get jacked. Like, I don't want to look like those bodybuilders who think, like, I pick up a dumbbell and sneeze and I just add 25 pounds of muscle. It doesn't happen like that.
I find a lot of people say that about creating on the internet. Like, and I ran into it when I was ghostwriting for CEOs. Same thing. I'd get on a call with them. One of the first things they'd say is they go, I don't want to be internet famous. And I'd sit there and be like, I hate to break it to you, but you have a very flawed understanding of how much effort, time, energy, attention it takes in order to be internet famous.
Yep.
You don't just write one article and then every person on planet Earth is thinking about you. And I find that faulty belief active in a lot of people. Part of this framework too that's clicked for me is, I think courses and info products in general, you'll hear people say, I've been burned in the past. A program didn't work for me or whatever it is. And I tend to notice now, like as this is crystallizing, that it's because those programs are all belief focused and very minimal hard skill focused. and very minimal accountability support, like actually helping you follow through. And so what happens is you get a lot of, well, here's all the reasons why you're not doing it, which in too much of a dose can make you feel worse, you know, and then doesn't actually give you an actionable path. And we actually made the opposite mistake, which is we went so hard in the hard skill direction. We were so obsessed with, this is the action step, this is what you do, this is how to do it, this is the framework to think about it, that we almost forgot, well, but the bottleneck for a lot of people is, I'm afraid to send my first cold outreach message, or I'm afraid to, you know, and so you have to remember to address both.
And it reinforces the conviction for us when we have the pure curriculum and the pure accountability, or the pure belief coaching, that we just have to be unreasonable with our accountability. So that leads to the next one, which is we started a daily email series to anyone going through PGA who has not made progress in 2 weeks. So the last month, we've been building this student accountability tracker where we can see the progress of everyone at any time, their last assignment completion, their last time logging into Slack, all of that. And now, anytime they go longer than 2 weeks, starts a 2-week daily email sequence from me saying, hey, where are you? Just checked in on this, saw you haven't made progress. Next day, bumping this back up to the top. And we know that there are so many resources for learning the hard skill and now the belief around actually putting those hard skills into practice, that it's our moral responsibility to annoy, quote unquote, annoy every single student. And we found like that was a limiting belief for us of, oh, they might be busy, it's whatever. Every single email I've sent so far, people have responded going, thank you so much for sending this. Yes, I got off track, XYZ. I'll start this tomorrow. And they report back in and boom, we've completely turned it around. So more implementation there.
Yeah, if you want to really drill into the root of the root, I think it's because we grow up in a society where it's better to just not be the person that the teacher calls on in class. And then you see that manifest in career paths, you know, corporate jobs where you're like, I'd rather just not address the problem, because if I don't say anything, then I won't be blamed for it. And you can see that faulty belief sort of spill into all of these things. Like we had it going, well, we don't want to follow up with people too much because we don't want to bother them. And then you see it with outreach where people go, I don't want to follow up with a potential client because I don't want to annoy them. But the reality is every time you do that, the vast majority of the responses are, thank you so much. Thank you for following up with me. This slipped my mind. I forgot to respond.
And we are learning that lesson time and time again, which leads nicely into the next bullet, which was at the end of the month, this was our third best month of PGA enrollments and our best month ever of mastermind enrollments, which felt extremely good given we were running a Ship 30 cohort at the time, which we'll talk about being our best cohort yet. And we put almost zero new effort into marketing. It was just pure status quo. Make the back-end infrastructure upgrades, make the curriculum upgrades, because the marketing will take care of itself. So great performance from the sales team, that was just a big lesson for us, is we can continue to operate at a high level without new efforts on the marketing side, given the assets we spent October, November creating are starting to compound.
Yep. Yeah, every time we build in the middle of a Ship 30 cohort, it always feels that, yeah, you feel it. There was the past couple of weeks, big time switching cost because you're going back and forth. And that's even with Ship 30 essentially being completely, we're not adding anything new. It's all completely automated, and a lot of PGA marketing systems, all of that, we're not really doing anything new. And even still, the switching back and forth is a lot.
Yeah, but it was our best Ship 30 cohort yet because we still showed up with big intensity on every single live call. So our student success rates were the highest. We had the highest continuity conversion to our back end, writing program, the Captain's Table. And we felt it because those are pretty much theatrical performances at this point. We've said the same jokes 20 times, 30 times. We were joking earlier that we could switch places and I could be Cole and he could be me, and we could just tell and use the same lines that each other use during each of our live calls. But students love it. And we have some plans for changing Ship 30 in the year ahead that we'll talk a little bit more about. But it felt good to make all these infrastructure upgrades, see those start to come to life, still have success on the marketing side without any new effort, all while running a Ship 30 program that we aren't going to be running for the next couple months. So we kind of got through the month that we knew was going to be pretty intense, and now we're starting to reevaluate what's next.
Yeah. But in the short term, I think we've really crystallized that we don't need to do anything new. PGA has a very clear path forward. Very excited about the mastermind PGM on the back end of it. Yeah, this is the first time I think we're going into a full year going, I think we know how we're going to spend this entire year. You know,
every other time's been some kind of, well, we know what these 3 or 4 months look like, but we just have to hopefully rewatch this video when we start to go down the shiny object
syndrome,
shiny object rabbit hole. So a couple other things we knocked out this week. We did that cross collaboration with Tiago.
We've done this with a couple creators now. Very excited about this. Like, we'll just for context, we'll do these viral drops from our own accounts. We'll put together some sort of info product and then we'll drop them from our accounts. It's a great way of getting a bunch of engagement on a social platform and then also as a mechanism for collecting emails. And then we started going, well, why do we have to do it from our account? So we then started reaching out to other creators going, hey, could we collaborate on a viral drop asset? We'll help you assemble it. We'll give you our playbook on how we do this. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, we pretty much productize this entire thing at this point, which means we can spin them up faster than anyone else could. So we'll probably do those on a monthly basis going forward, but nothing really exciting there. I think the last one is we both began to dabble in selfie camera video. So you made like a 20-minute video talking head. How'd that go? How'd that feel?
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by just the idea that video can be approached in so many different ways. And something that's really clicking for me is that professional quality video has a lot of pros, but there's also cons. And one of the cons that I see is if you lean too far in that direction, and I don't think a lot of people think about this, or maybe they do, and I just, whatever. If you lean too far in that direction, you inherently start playing a more status game because it becomes about elevating the production quality to the point where you are so far above the people that you're talking to, right? You get further and further away from them. And that's not really a game I'm interested in playing. Like, I think the shipyard and having the space is really cool. And the fact that it looks so great is awesome. But ultimately the thing that is most rewarding to me is being on the same level as someone. And so I really like the idea of just doing more like raw selfie video, talking head, because that's the experience I enjoy more versus the people that lean really heavily in the overly produced quality direction. They end up creating this dynamic with their audience where they're like unreachable. And I just have no interest in that.
I think there's a barbell where if you can have highly produced, high quality educational videos like this with still a constant selfie video, like I'm just the same as you guys, I just have a fancy studio, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah,
because
agree.
people go one or the other, and I think there are benefits to having both. And it was nice to see you make that video because I've been thinking about doing something like that for a long time, and seeing you do one, I was like, I'm just going to do one tomorrow. I've done 3 in a row now, and it's really easy and way easier than I thought it would be. And that's a macro lesson of you delay for months something that takes a couple minutes to do. Like I took out my camera on my walks, like I'm filming it today. I'm doing it. I sent it to Ash. He uploaded it. Boom. And the response has been great.
I was going to say, again, drinking our own Kool-Aid, it's been fascinating that little selfie talking head video I post on YouTube, immediately, it's not like it went viral or anything, but tiny little data point, it was one of my most engaged videos, period. And I looked at it relative to recent podcast clips.
I didn't see you put that on YouTube.
Yeah. I put it on YouTube, and it's gotten more likes and more comments than almost any other video I've posted in that same period of time.
Interesting.
And
I didn't know you did this. Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so that to me, it's like, this is something we try and explain in Ship 30. People go into I want to create things on the internet with this mindset of either no one consumes it or it gets 1 million views and 1 million comments and 1 million likes. And there are so many little data points that happen between those two extremes. And so even this has 1,000 views. Like, wow. It's not like it went viral, but if you look at it relative to some of the other videos I've posted, I interpret that as, oh, this is a small spike in interest, in engagement. I should lean into this more.
Yeah, I bet your retention was great on this video.
Yeah.
And depth of 78 likes on less than 1,000 views. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. More signal for me because I could just turn what I've been doing is I had a process I was already going through, which was sharing what I wrote every day. Now I just turn that into video and have added like a little tip or framework or tactic. I think my next step is going to be taking the weekly personal lessons and realizations and just make a talking head video. Yeah. Here we are iterating in real time.
Yeah, I like these lessons and realizations you ended with. I think this is always
this
fun
is
to
the
dig
meat
into.
of what we want to share on a weekly basis as a way to distill and crystallize frameworks for ourselves. So we've already stumbled on a few more, which is, I'm just going to add this to the list, which is the best educational content has both skill and belief.
Yep.
Which is overcoming objections, anything that would keep someone from doing it. Next one we came up with is everything is trainable. Some things are just harder to train. So rather than thinking, is this trainable? It's how trainable is it? It's a spectrum. So there are some things like having a conversation with me is like zero trainability in terms of being able to replicate someone else.
Yeah.
But someone asking me questions about how they can better manage their time, we might have that belief of like, I'm the only one who could explain it. But if I can explain it to that person, it means I can explain it to someone else who could then explain it to that person.
Yep.
And we are learning this lesson more and more of, I don't think there's any part of the business that we didn't once think was untrainable that we then ended up learning, actually, we could delegate this if we needed to. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a continuous process. Anytime we feel ourselves like, oh, we have to be the ones to do that, it's probably because we looked at it from a binary lens and instead go, okay, we might not be able to replicate all of this, but what are the parts that are trainable or replicatable or delegatable?
Yeah, it's sort of like, and I certainly have fallen victim to this. In every business I've ever built, I was always convinced that I was the only person who could do it. And then I'm just proven wrong again and again and again. But it's like the doctor paradox where the doctor thinks no one can do what I do, but then you have to ask the question, well, how did you learn how to do what you were doing? Because someone had to train you, right? So it's this, and we should do this for ourselves. It's like, how do we know the things that we know? Well, someone else had to teach us. Someone else had to train us. So yeah, I really like your point of everything is trainable. It's just on a spectrum.
And how difficult is it going to be to train?
Yeah. How trainable is it? How difficult is it to train?
Right. We've seen it with Ash cranking through a lot of our emails and things like that that we used to think wouldn't be trainable.
Yeah, I thought I have to write every single email. No, you don't. Because volume solves a lot of problems. And one of the ways that volume solves problems is that when you're forced to do something over and over and over again, your impatience for it grows until eventually you become so frustrated with the fact that you continue to repeat yourself that you start to go, if I don't find a solution for this, I'm either going to throw my head through a window or I'm going to just stop doing it. I'm going to give up. And so I noticed that the more that I repeat myself on something, now I'm giving myself the permission of, okay, who could I train to do this?
Yeah. And that I wrote that down as another lesson from the week. It's to build any kind of successful business, you will repeat yourself an uncomfortable number of times.
So many times.
That's both in your own products. You're going to have to say the same thing time and time again. On Ship 30, how many times have we said the same thing on the same live call over and over? With your team, you're going to have to communicate the same core values, the same way to build a culture. You're going to use the same words over and over again. You're going to use the same belief breaking and coaching formulas. In your content, you're going to say the same thing time and time and time and time again. And that's great. It's a nice realization is when you feel like, wow, I've said that before, it's probably worth saying again.
And that's true for everything. It's like, oh, you want to play in the NBA? You're going to take the same free throw shot a gazillion times. Oh, you want to play golf? It's that same swing every single time, So this exists everywhere. I think it's just reframing that in your brain. And the inverse is also true. If you look at most people, again, I made the same mistake. You look at most people who are stuck in their business or in their life or whatever it is, it's because they've started down the path of that boring monotony and then they've become, it's like they're disillusioned by it. They're like, I need the next shiny object. And every time you do that, you're starting over. You're never allowing the path to compound.
It applies to everything where you are a fixed number of boring actions away from basically any goal.
Yep.
So my example right now is I started the year, put on a little bit too much holiday chub.
No, you're bulking.
Yeah, I was thank you. I was bulking. And so I came into the year and said, all right, I'm going to do a little 6-week mini cut between now and Colombia. I've now eaten the same breakfast, the same lunch, the same dinner for 33 days in a row. And that level of monotony is something that most people could not stick with.
Yeah.
But I have done that because on day one, I said, if I eat these 3 meals every day for 6 weeks, this is literally what will happen. I will lose this much because I'm at 2,800 calories a day maintenance. This is 2,800 a day, 50 days, boom. And literally I'm on a chart that is a straight line down at the exact slope that I programmed. And it's just a reminder to me, do the things that you know will work if you repeat them long enough.
Yeah, it's people going, I want people to read my writing. Okay, write every day online for the rest of your life. And if you do that, you will, there isn't a world where you won't achieve that goal. You know?
So I'm trying to duplicate that simple formula of like, what are the things that I know if I do every day, it's unreasonable for me to not reach my goal. Okay, how about this one? Suboptimal parts of your business should excite you because it means you're going to grow forever. So I felt this one this week as we've been setting up this marketing infrastructure where I want to be able to see our traffic sources from LinkedIn, from Twitter, from Instagram to all our different email courses. And I was like, how have we been operating without this? How have we've just been flying blind for the last 2 years of like, I think that's working. I think traffic's coming from here. No clue. And at first I was like, God, that could be so much better. And then I reframed it of, we did all this and I had no clue that Instagram was driving this number of leads. We should probably post more here at this time to this traffic source or to this lead magnet. It's amazing. And I know that we're 1 week away from having that and it'll be a whole new level of clarity on the marketing side. Yeah.
I'm very excited about all that attribution.
Yeah.
The fact that we've done what we have, despite the fact that we don't have any of that. This is also, I'm really glad that you wrote this. The reframing of things that could be better should excite you because you'll grow forever. Because I, for years, have just had a really bad habit of always looking at something negative, being like, well, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
I guess the business is ruined. And it's like, no, that's the opportunity. That's exactly the whole point.
And we have a massive list of things that could be better, which means we have our work cut out for us. Yeah. So it could be, this business is broken. There's nothing, none of these things are working. It's like, oh, great. The business is actually doing fine despite none of those things working. So let's go fix them and we'll continue to grow forever. 2 more. It's hard to stop a team when everyone has aligned incentives to grow the entire business.
I've really noticed this lately. So there's multiple components to this. One, finding ways to give everyone some sort of trajectory, something to strive for. 2, finding ways, and it can be created in, there's not one size fits all, but finding ways to allow people to share in the upside, right? Because like when you win, you want everyone to win. But third is also tying those incentives to the type of culture that you want to build. Like, what do you want people to be obsessed with? And I think something we've done a good job of is really instilling this culture of people wanting to be the best at their role. It's like, if you're going to be in that role, you should become the best possible person to own that role. And if that's not your goal, then A, it's probably going to reveal itself. And B, it's like, you should pick something else, because if you're going to spend all your time getting really good at something, get really good at something that fits your natural strengths.
I heard a great Hormozy framework on compensation that I want to crystallize right now. So he was talking about, he heard it from someone else, they're going to start to implement it. But basically he takes someone's compensation, let's say they're on track, ideal compensation would be $200,000. He splits it in half. He was echoing this from someone else. Someone else does this. Splits it in half, says 100K is base, then takes the additional 50%, so the other 100K, and he splits that in half. And so 25% of their comp is, he takes those 2 pieces. One is tied to the overall business revenue hitting a certain milestone. So it's tiered out of like, the business grows this much, you get this much. The business grows this much, you get this much, et cetera. The other piece is they set an individual goal. And if they hit it, they get that other 25%. They pick, or they allow each person to set that goal but they have to tell the entire team what that goal is. So you can't set a goal that's so low where everyone around you goes, why are you setting a goal that's so low just so you automatically get that 25%? So we're doing the same thing, which was really interesting because you have the culture that supports a higher performance goal. So they get the personal growth of setting a goal that they can go and hit. They have the full aligned incentive to build the entire business. And it's still not putting all their eggs in one basket such that if the business doesn't grow, they don't get their base salary. I thought that was really interesting from a compensation perspective, and I think we could implement something like that.
Yeah. There's a moment, a little story I come back to all the time. This was back when I was living in LA. I went to some, not party, like what's a business party called? It's not networking, but it's like a business, there's a bunch of people there in business. And I was talking with this really successful CEO, and I was like, oh, good to see you. How's the year been? And he said, I just had my best year ever. And I said, well, what'd you do differently? And he said, I broke out each department and I basically made each person treat their department as if it was a business inside of my business. And I reduced their guaranteed base a bit, but I gave them more upside in their specific department. And he said it made everyone work harder. It made the whole business grow faster. And I just had my best year ever.
Yeah.
And that is one of those moments that really stuck out to me where I think the reason that works so well is because, especially today, like more and more people want to be entrepreneurial, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go start your own thing. There's a lot of benefit in being intrapreneurial inside of an organization that has a ton of opportunity. And you can have more ownership in whatever it is that you're doing.
It's the same idea of spectrums, right?
Yeah.
Full entrepreneurial is you own all the risk and you're the last one to get paid. W-2 is you're the first one to get paid. If there's some kind of middle ground where you have shared upside, but also a base, it's just in the middle. So here's what I did with the sales team. I said, we're going to do a bonus payout this month based on individual goals. So here's what I had them do. All three of them are going to set an individual goal to hit for this month. If they hit it, they get a certain bonus. If all three of them hit their individual goals, they all get an additional bonus. But if I wrote down a reasonable goal for each of them and I put it on a piece of paper and I took a picture of it and I said, if the goal that you come back to me with is below the number I have here, no bonuses for anyone the entire month.
This turned into Squid Games real quick.
So I was like, I couldn't get the public accountability because they could still collude and everyone set a low goal. So I was like, if you guys collude and you set super low goals so it's easy to hit, it's gone. So now they have to figure out and I gave them the numbers. I was like, here's what I think is reasonable for this, this, and this. Do the math. You'll see where I'm projecting and then set a goal a little bit higher than that.
That's amazing.
So
I didn't know you did that.
I did that this morning. So they were all like, oh, great. Because I saw them snickering, oh, what if we just set this? I'm like, okay, yeah, here's the last bullet. If you come with a goal that's lower than the goals I think you should have, all of you lose the chance to have this. So it's going to raise the bar. I hope. We'll see.
A lesson that it doesn't matter what restrictions you put in place, everyone will always try and game the system.
Yeah,
always.
Exactly. No, it's the Cobra test. This is another lesson. I had to write this down. This is from a Keith Raboy video. Every indicator needs a counter indicator. So we learned this with one of our challenges last month on the sales side was a certain number of enrollments, but we didn't set a counter indicator that said it had to be of a certain percentage of revenue collected, rather than a payment plan. And so anytime the whole bonus payout that I just talked about for the team is now subject to one team-wide KPI that they must meet as well. So there's a minimum threshold that will solve the problem we had last month. And now we have a counter indicator for all the other goals. And so this comes from I don't know if it was Old England or Old India where it originated, but they had a snake problem, cobras. And to try to reduce the number of cobras in the wild, they put a bounty on if you brought a dead cobra to whatever office, they'd give you $100. It's like, okay, this is going to solve, people are going to find the cobras, they're going to kill them, they're going to bring them to us. And instead, in a couple weeks, way more cobras started popping up. They're like, what's going on? And the people started to breed cobras so they could kill them to then turn the money in.
Oh my God.
So you need a counter indicator. And when you create a goal with no, constraint, then people are going to find ways to hit that goal.
There you game the system.
Right. So got to keep that one in mind. And I'm going to add that to our list.
Human nature. Yeah, these are some really good takeaways. It'll be, again, a compounding here. It'll be interesting at the end of the year to compile all of these.
Like a montage.
Yeah.
Right? Here are all the frameworks we talked about. And it's like a 3-hour long video.
Yeah.
I feel so good. This perfectly ends the last section. You can improve something quickly by making one small improvement every day with a morning meeting and closing the loop in the evening. And basically, this is just a daily iteration process where we're trying to improve multiple different things right now. So we've had 3 meetings in the morning, identify the action items for each member of the team during that meeting, and then shut the loop by the end of the day. And it's the same idea here with Espresso Hour. It's how can we put something on the calendar that we're going to do every single week or day or time period such that you can iterate and make improvements. And then this one is just compounding over the long term. So I think we'll get better at breaking down our week every week. We'll distill more lessons and realizations. And then by the end, we'll have a huge library of all those improvements and we'll see where we're at.
And then we'll put it in a perfectly organized Notion dashboard.
No, maybe, honestly though, there's a product idea. It's like, here are the best, people don't pay for information, they pay for the packaging. Mm-hmm. So if it was, here's a clip snippet of the 50 best frameworks we shared.
That's a great point.
Like a premium version of Espresso Hour or something like that.
Yep.
So lots of cool ideas in the works just based on putting something on the calendar, doing it every week and going from there.
Infinite things for us to create.
That's right.
Burden of opportunity.
That's right. And the very last thing I put on the what happened is we got back to filming Espresso Hour. So we're back in the lab, breaking things down. It feels good.
And 2 weeks until we go to Colombia.
There we go. Cole's getting married.
It's happening.
Marriage.
It's happening. I'm ready to be on the other side of the new life begins thereafter. So let's go.
If anyone has marriage tips for Cole, maybe we should start drop a comment if we should do life updates at the end or at the beginning of this.
Yeah,
if you'd be interested in a little bit of behind the scenes of what goes on outside this camera and outside the business world.
Maybe we'll make the secret word marriage.
Marriage.
And so give me your best piece of marriage advice.
Yeah, there you go. All right, secret word for this one. We're going to be compiling. I'm starting to do weekly private Ask Me Anything sessions for people who respond to what I wrote today. And they get a personal invite where it's like a 6-person, 30-minute, come with a question, ask it to me. Whoever leaves a comment with the secret word, we'll do 1 or 2 or 3 people invited to that private Ask Me Anything. All right, that's all we got for this week. If you're on YouTube, smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, whatever the YouTubers say these days. Actually do leave a comment if you made it this far. Really appreciate it. If you are watching this or listening to this on Spotify, if you could take 1 minute, leave a 5-star review. That would go a long way in helping the podcast grow. We're trying to get to 100 reviews right now. So a 5-star review will go a long way with that. That's all we got for this week. We'll be back breaking everything down. Hit us with any questions. We appreciate you watching. See you next week. Have a good one, y'all.
See you.